Start, eh? Good morning. So we will be having a case presentation today on a case of carcinoma thyroid. It will be presented by Dr. Shomen Shah. He is a third-year DNB resident at RKM Shivaprasad Vivekananda Medical Sciences. Professor Ditendra Kumar Sarkar, who is Professor of Surgery at IPGMR SKM Hospital, Kolkata, and he has a lot of interest on breast and endocrine surgery. So he is also in charge of that unit. So Dr. Sarkar will take us through this. I think Dr. Shumen, you can start. You can see your screen. You start presenting.
Good morning, sir. I am going to present a case on carcinoma of thyroid gland. My patient, Mrs. X, she is a 55-year-old female resident of Kolkata and homemaker by occupation. She is being examined on 5th of October, and she presented with chief complaint of swelling at the front and right side of the neck for last 6 months. If we go to the present history of present illness, the patient was apparently symptomless 6 months back when she noticed a swelling at the front of the neck. It was insidious in onset and gradually increasing in size, extending into the right side of the front of the neck. For the last 2 to 3 months, the swelling has become more prominent. It is not associated with any pain, recent change of voice, and difficulty in deglutition. There is no history of difficulty of swelling of solid or liquid food, no history of difficulty in breathing, and no history of lethargy, change in appetite, abnormal weight loss or gain, trembling of limbs, bulging of eyes, heat or cold intolerance, constipation or diarrhea. Sir, in her past illness, she has no history of any radiation exposure to head, neck or chest region before, no history of any tuberculosis in the past. Her personal history: bowel, bladder, sleep, appetite, normal. She is on mixed Bengali diet and she is married. Menstrual history and obstetric history: she is a post-menopausal woman. He attained menarche at 13 years of age and menopause on 45 years of age. She has 2 children, all by normal delivery. Family history: no history of thyroid disease in the family or neighborhood, and she has no history of allergy to any known substance. Sir, history is...
Okay. Wait.
Yes.
Dr. Shumen, wait.
Yes.
We have some discussion on history part. Dr. Sarkar, please.
Okay. Now, number one, Showman, what is the significance of asking the patient whether the patient has got any swelling apart from this in the neck or any history of bone pain? Do you think that history is important in such cases?
Yes, sir. Any other swelling in the neck that may be due to lymph node. And I have found lymph node in the patient's neck on examination, but the patient did not complain.
Okay, so you should ask this question whether the patient has complained any other swelling in the neck that would exclude the possibility of any lymph node metastasis. Similarly, history of bone
pain for blood-bone metastasis.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Now, second point is, while you are elaborating or trying to exclude the history of thyrotoxicosis, you have excluded it, but there is no, in present day, like MBBS student, you need not tell everything. I mean, no history of increased appetite, diarrhea, etc. You can coincide it and tell specifically that, sir, the patient does not give any history suggestive of thyrotoxicosis or hyperthyroidism. Clear?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Whereas when you are dealing with a thyrotoxicosis patient, you should elaborate those history. Now, when you are dealing with a non-toxic case, then you elaborate the other histories. Clear?
Okay, sir.
So just remember, for the sake of remembering, that while you are elaborating a thyroid swelling, try to elaborate in certain corners. Number one is elaborate the history. that is swelling in the neck and how it has been increasing, which you have appropriately done. I don't have any comment to make on that. Number two, you must state the history of compressive features. Now, while you are stating the history of compressive features, you have appropriately mentioned about difficulty in deglutition. You have told about respiratory distress. Now, can you tell me what would be the feature of if some patient has got compression of the carotid artery or the jugular vein?
Sir, if jugular vein is compressed, then there will be signs of raised intracranial pressure. So
why will there be signs of raised intracranial pressure? That is, there are cerebral autoregulatory mechanism for that, and the back pressure does not extend into the brain. But what other feature you will get if the patient has got a compression of the jugular vein?
Sir, facial puffiness.
Yes. So you can also ask whether the patient has any history of recent onset puffiness of face, expansion of neck, or any dilated tortuous structure in the neck or in the chest wall. What history will you take to exclude the possibility of carotid compression?
Sir, due to carotid compression, there may be history of dizziness
and blackouts. Okay. So more prominently, you will find that this patient suddenly turning his head and going into blackout because they are in a state of compromise. Once they turn the head, there is a pressure on the transverse process of C6, and suddenly the patient can go into a sort of state of blackout. Okay. Now, what do you think that in a patient, now up to this is fine. I mean, this is the basic. Now, if you are doing a good examination, the examiner might ask you that what is the significance of knowing whether the patient has Horner syndrome or not? Can a patient of thyroid carcinoma has Horner syndrome?
Yes, sir. If the thyroid malignancy can compress over the superior ciliary ganglion.
So if they compress the cervical sympathetic ganglion,
it may cause Horner syndrome.
Very good. Okay, now coming to the family history. What important family history you should exclude?
Sir, some thyroid malignancies run in the family, like medullary carcinoma, and it is also is a component of multiple endocrine neoplasia main syndrome, so which runs in the family. So I have to ask if there is any history of thyroid malignancy in the family, or pheochromocytoma may also be present in main syndrome.
Very good. So you have appropriately elaborated all these facts. Okay. Now suppose the patient gives you a history of thyrotoxicosis and there is a history of drug intake. Also try to elaborate that. But today our discussion would be restricted more to carcinoma thyroid. And so I'm not going into the details of that. Okay. So I don't have any other question to be asked here. If sir asks you anything, then we will.
Yes, Dr. Somen, the part you elaborated with the history and the other exclusion criteria, what do you think this swelling is likely to be?
Sir, from the history, I get impression of it is a swelling in the front of the neck in the thyroid region. So
if you take it to the pathology, what pathology strikes your mind going through the history?
Sir, it may be any non-toxic goiter or any colloid nodule may be also present, but there are two swellings, and also thyroid carcinoma. All are possible.
Why thyroid carcinoma? What point you get to suggest this might be a thyroid carcinoma, at least from the history?
From the history, I cannot tell about
Yes.
thyroid
So that is the
carcinoma
point.
or-
If you could have mentioned in the history that patient also complained of a swelling in the right side of the neck apart from the main swelling, that would have been one added point that this patient also complained another swelling which might be a lymph node. I don't know. I in front of the end of examination, and you said for last 2 months it is becoming more prominent.
Yes.
Prominent means is increasing in size. So rather than saying more prominent in patient language, you should be rapid increase for a transient period of 2 to 3 months. So
Okay, sir.
it may not persist that is carcinoma thyroid because in the history you may not have all the suggestive features.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we then pass on to examination.
Okay, sir. Sir, physical examination. I have done the physical examination in a well-lit room in the presence of female attendant. After taking proper patient's consent and explaining the procedure to the patient. First, general survey. The patient is conscious, alert, and cooperative with respect to time, place, and person. Build average. Face is normal. Decubitus of choice. Nutrition status well nourished. Pallor, clubbing, cyanosis, etc. Edema all are absent. Neck veins not engorged. Cervical lymph nodes are palpable. I have discussed that in locoregional part. Thyroid gland is also visible and palpable. I have explained later. Pulse is 86 per minute and it is regular. BP 126 by 80. Respiratory rate 14 per minute. Temperature is normal 98 per minute. So now coming to locoregional examination. On inspection, there is a swelling situated in the front and right side of the neck in the thyroid region, indicating enlargement of the isthmus and right lobe of thyroid gland. The isthmus extends from below the thyroid cartilage to suprasternal notch. On inspection, it is 5 by 4 centimeter in size to the right, and to the right of the isthmus, the right lobe of thyroid gland is also enlarged, measuring 3 by 4 centimeter. The surface appears to be smooth and margin is regular. Skin over the swelling, no scar, no pigmentation, and no venous prominence. Non-pulsatile. The swelling is non-pulsatile. The swelling moves with deglutition but does not move with tongue protrusion. And lower border of the swelling is visible on extension of the neck, and no venous prominence over chest wall. No inspectory findings suggestive of thyrotoxicosis.
Hold on, Showman.
Yes, sir.
Before we move to the palpation, now while you are doing this inspection, again, you have got the standard confusion which most of the candidates have. Okay, they are unsure whether they want to describe a swelling or they are unsure whether they are going to describe a thyroid swelling. Clear? Your inspection also has got that standard confusion that we encountered among students. Now, instead of going the way you have, you reverse it. Number one, on inspection, try to prove that this is a thyroid swelling. That comes as a priority. Now, sir, I want to examine this while I examine the patient in sitting position with neck slightly extended. I examined and found a swelling which is situated in front of the neck. The swelling is either a hemi-butterfly or a butterfly in shape, or it is situated in the anatomical location of the thyroid region. On asking the patient to take a deglutition, the swelling moves up and down on deglutition, suggesting that this is a thyroid swelling. Now, if the swelling is a solitary thyroid nodule situated at the level of the isthmus only, then you can also ask, sir, I have also asked the patient to protrude the tongue and it did not move on protrusion of the tongue. So therefore, as the swelling is situated in the anatomical location of the thyroid, as it has got a shape which conforms to the thyroid, as it moves on the deglutition of movement on deglutition, plus minus on protrusion of tongue, within bracket for solitary thyroid nodule, it appears to be a thyroid swelling. So step one, you establish that is a thyroid swelling. Clear? So once you have established it, then things become easier. Now the next things what you have said is appropriate. That means the isthmus and the right lobe is situated from there to there. The size of the right lobe is this much, the isthmus is this much, the left lobe is this much, the right lobe has a surface which is like this, the left lobe has a surface, etc., etc. So the step one is to establish it is thyroid. Don't drag the whole thing towards the end. Rabindranath also has beard, a goat also has beard. Why Rabindranath is not goat? So don't drag into that sort of discussion towards the end. So for thyroid, it's pretty simple. When it's situated in front of the neck and these features are present, then it's called a thyroid swelling. Clear? Regarding protrusion of tongue, it is not a test to be done in every patient. Only if you find that there is a solitary thyroid nodule in and around the isthmus area, then this test becomes mandatory. However, if you have done that, I don't disagree on that. If the examiner asks you, realistically, do you think there is a possibility of this being a thyroglossal cyst? Your answer will be, no, sir, I don't think, but I thought it's part of the examination of the neck and the thyroid swelling. I have mentioned it. Clear? So otherwise, if you find a clear-cut big thyroid swelling, realistically at postgraduate level, you don't expect it to be a thyroglossal cyst. Clear? So rest of the things are okay. The features of thyrotoxicosis, etc., that you have mentioned is perfect. Okay. And also try to mention, yeah, it's fine. I mean, I don't find any other abnormalities in the inspection. That's fantastic. If sir wants to put in it.
Yeah, actually, Dr. Sarkar has mentioned a very valid point. I find a lot of postgraduate students start describing the swelling, and at the end, last line, they are writing, this is likely thyroid swelling. So instead of that, you just do the first part, as Dr. Sarkar said, and infer is thyroid swelling. And then it is either a swelling involving the lobes, isthmus, and the upper or both lobes, then it becomes diffuse thyroid swelling. And then describe the remaining part. Then you describe the right lobe measures this, left lobe measures this, the region isthmus measures this. So that is a better way of describing. Just make it a standard. For thyroid swelling, you will just infer the thyroid swelling, because number one by location, number two is by asking the patient to swallow. Okay, so Somen, you have mentioned that the isthmus region extends just below the thyroid cartilage. Very unusual. I have not seen the picture properly, but you see, isthmus reaching to thyroid cartilage will be a very large swelling in the isthmas. Usually, the isthmus
from
is
below the thyroid cartilage.
You have to mention that. If you say below, you have to give a approximate dimension. That the isthmus region is extending 2 centimeters below the thyroid cartilage.
Okay, sir.
Or 2 centimeters above the sternal notch. So it appears that there is a swelling which is reaching up to the thyroid cartilage. It is very unusual. Okay, otherwise your description is good. So as Dr. Sarkar said, switch on to a different form of description.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Come to palpation.
Sir, on palpation, the temperature over the swelling, it is not raised, and tenderness absent. Size, the isthmus extends from, sir, as you have said, sir, from 2 centimeters below the thyroid cartilage to up to 1 centimeter above the suprasternal notch, and 5 by 4 centimeter in size to the right of the isthmus. And to the right of the isthmus, right lobe of thyroid gland is also enlarged, measuring 3 by 4 centimeter. On palpation, the surface is nodular, margins are irregular, circumference of the neck at the most prominent part is 45 centimeter. Consistency of the swelling is hard, and there is no pulsation, palpable pulsation. The swelling is not fixed to the skin, and there is the swelling is mobile from deep structures. Sir, I have written wrongly, sir, restricted mobility. Sir, swelling is mobile from deep structures. It is not fixed to sternocleidomastoid of either side, and trachea and larynx. It is present in the midline. There is no shifting of the trachea. Coccus test is negative, and carotid pulse is normal in position. Cervical lymph nodes, 2 lymph nodes of size 1 into 1 centimeter palpable at level 3. Lymph nodes are mobile from deeper structures and firm in consistency.
Okay, hold on, Somen. We will go to the palpation first. Okay. Now, once again, make it a standard habit henceforth that when you are presenting a case, you always tell, I want to examine the patient in a well-lit room and after taking proper consent. And actually you do that, okay? And you tell the patient, sir, I am going to examine your neck and I'm not going to hurt you. If there is a pain, let me know. I will immediately stop that, okay? It's like the way you take an oath in a court. So you continue that and then
Sir,
start,
sir.
make it a reflex, okay?
Should I tell it before palpation or before general survey?
No. Every time that you do, whenever you start
Okay, sir.
touching a patient as a new chapter, you go on telling that. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now, again, the point probably holds true that initially you begin and reconfirm that it's a thyroid swelling. Clear? On palpation. And after you have confirmed, rest of the things fall into the line that way you have described. Clear? Now, I have this question, what is the significance of circumference? Knowing the neck circumference.
Sir, just to get an idea of the extent of the disease, how big is the swelling?
But as I said, we don't know the normal circumference. I mean, the normal circumference might vary from individual to individual. And therefore, I don't think, at least I have not come across any specific clinical examination where the neck circumference needs to be mentioned. I stand corrected, of course. Okay. Number 2, go back to the same slide once again. No.
Examination.
Keep examination, palpation. Yeah. So you see 45 centimeters is the neck circumference. I have not come across. Number 2, when you tell about the consistency, do you think the consistency was uniformly hard across the thyroid, or there is a specific nodule which to you appeared to be hard?
No, sir. The whole of the thyroid was not hard. I have explained the nodule which is hard.
Slide. Keep the slide static. Okay. So, yeah. So not the whole, isn't it?
Not the whole, sir.
So here again, don't make the mistake. At postgraduate level, you must tell that, sir, I examined the thyroid as a whole. There was an area, or there was a nodule particularly situated to the right of the isthmus, blah, 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 which was, the nodule was extremely hard, whereas the other rest of the area of the thyroid appears to be firm. The next question that an examiner might ask you, what are the causes of a hard nodule in a thyroid?
Sir, it may be due to carcinoma of thyroid gland. It may be due to acute thyroiditis, due to collection, there may be hardness, and maybe due to Riedel's thyroiditis, the thyroid may appear hard.
Anything else?
Long-standing nodule.
Long-standing nodule with, if there is calcification,
Yes.
Very good.
it may appear hard.
Anything else? Hemorrhage. Okay. So the
Hemorrhage.
classical 3 things are carcinoma, hemorrhage, and calcification. Follow it up with Riedel's thyroiditis. Acute thyroiditis per se do not produce hard nodules, but Riedel's thyroiditis do produce a very hard nodule. Okay. Consistency, pulse. Now, what do you mean by the pulsation of the swelling? Do you expect the swelling to be pulsatile, the thyroid swelling to be pulsatile?
No, sir.
So there is no point in highlighting this. Then if you tell it's routine, then you have to mention that it's not compressible, blah, blah, blah. At postgraduate level, we don't expect that. Next slide, please. Now go to this. Not fixed to skin, etc. is fine. But how do you assess the shift of the larynx? I mean, laryngeal shifting is not a part of examination of the thyroid. Tracheal shifting is fine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, can you quote any place where you tell that the larynx is shifted? Don't shift the
No,
slide.
sir.
Keep the slide.
No, sir.
Okay.
My computer is one problem.
Okay, so larynx, don't utter about laryngeal shiftness. That's not part of examination. We would stick to tracheal shifting. Clear? Now, what is the present day status of the Cocker's test? Cocker's test.
Yes, sir. If the thyroid swelling invades the tracheal lumen, then if we press over the trachea, then there will be wheeze or stridor of the patient. That is
Stridor.
positive Cocker's test.
Okay. Now that may be obvious. If it is obvious, you mention that. But the present day status is it is unethical to press the thyroid to evoke a Cocker's test. Okay. Because if the patient does have a subclinical compression, the patient might actually go into distress. So routinely Cocker's test should not be done. That is the present day consensus internationally. You should not be doing that. Clear? If the patient has an obvious stridor, then you mention, yes, sir, on inspection and while I was palpating the thyroid, I did find there was a stridor. So it's obvious that there is a tracheal compression. So focus more on shifting of the trachea and less on the Cocker's test, which is not commonly done. The next question is, what is the location of the normal location of the carotid artery?
Sir, carotid artery is palpable at the level of anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, and horizontal level is at the level of cricoid cartilage, sir, lower border.
Cricoid or upper border of the thyroid cartilage?
Sir,
Again, so many you have got the standard confusions which many residents have. Now, the carotid, if you want to tell where exactly the carotid pulse is palpated, in the medicine ward, they palpate it at the level of the C6 because the transverse process of the C6 in front of it, the carotid artery passes. So that is the carotid tubercle is located there, and that is at the level of the lower border of the cricoid cartilage. But we surgeons usually palpate it at the upper border of the thyroid cartilage or the Adam's apple, and the projected straight line on the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid is where you find the the carotid pulsation. Clear? So, in medicine they go down, but in surgery we are only concerned about the equality of pulse. So it is situated at the upper border of the Adam's apple, where the bifurcation takes place. Clear?
okay, sir.
The next question is relationship with sternocleidomastoid. Now, what relationship you are actually looking at? Because thyroid carcinoma very rarely get fixed to the sternocleidomastoid. What relationship with the sternocleidomastoid you will actually look for?
Sir, if the thyroid swelling invades the carotid sheath, so it will grow in the posterior plane of the sternocleidomastoid.
Carotid sheath. What do you mean by carotid sheath, dear? Carotid sheath is something else. Are you talking about the deep cervical fossa in the neck?
Yes, sir.
Now, let me tell you, you have answered properly, but to be more elaborate, either a thyroid swelling is deep to the sternocleidomastoid or it is running close to the sternocleidomastoid. Very rarely it can be superficial, but that's usually not possible. So the purpose of doing the test is to understand the relationship of the swelling to the sternocleidomastoid is whether it is going deep to the sternocleidomastoid or not. And you know, either by pressing it on one side or the chin down technique, you actually elaborate that. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So don't write it is fixed to the sternocleidomastoid, because we rarely find a thyroid cancer which is fixed to the sternocleidomastoid and we have to exclude because of the intervening deep cervical fascia which splits to enclose that. Now, while you are examining the cervical lymph nodes in a thyroid, you must specifically mention all the zones, okay? Or at least keep in mind, because it's very important that the level 6 nodes may be involved. Clear?
Okay, sir.
So that has to be stated. Rest all is fine with me. if Dr. Shah can add something else.
Yeah, another thing the student confused is the relation of the swelling to the larynx trachea, invasion to larynx trachea, and invasion to the deeper structures. You see, the thyroid gland moves up and down deglutition because of attachment with the petechial fascia.
Petechial fascia.
And that situation, it is moving in deglutition, but there is an intrinsic mobility of the thyroid gland from the larynx and trachea. That means if you can move the swelling little up and down and side to side without the trachea and larynx being moved, that indicates that there is intrinsic mobility, but the thyroid moving up in deglutition because of the petechial fascia. Now think of a situation, this thyroid swelling is a malignancy and has infiltrated into the larynx and trachea. That time also the swelling will move up and down in deglutition because it is now attached only to the larynx and trachea. But now we try to move the swelling, keeping the larynx and trachea fixed, it will not move. That indicates it is fixed to the larynx and trachea. Third is, this swelling can invade the prevertebral muscle and cervical vertebral body. In that case, there will be no movement in deglutition and you cannot move the swelling. That is how you differentiate fixity of the swelling to the deeper structure, mean prevertebral muscle and the cervical vertebral body. Larynx trachea is a deeper structure, but we describe in different way. Fixity of the larynx trachea and fix the deeper structure. So that part should be clear in conception. Okay, I think rest has been described well. We can pass on to the next part. Shomin, chalo.
Sir, percussion, sir. There is normal resonant note over manubrium sternum.
If you are appearing
on
before Dr.
auscultation.
Chintamani, if you are appearing before Dr. Chintamani, don't say that you are percussing over the manubrium sternum. He doesn't like it. But still, there is a description that the area is resonant. But he said always that this area is always dull. Okay, chalo.
And on auscultation, no bruit audible over the thyroid gland.
Somen, I have a simple question to ask before
Yes,
we move to the systemic examination. Now, what specific clinical features or on examination, the signs you will get to state that this patient has got, this swelling has got a retrosternal prolongation on inspection, on palpation, and on percussion approach?
For retrosternal prolongation, from history, the patient will may complain of facial puffiness, and on inspection.
Examination, we mean on examination.
Okay. On inspection, the patient we can see the prominent veins over the chest wall and neck, and Pemberton signs will be positive. That is on raising the hand above the head for 1 minute, there will be appearance of facial puffiness.
Okay. Now let me tell you in a proper
and
way.
lower, and on inspection, lower border of the thyroid swelling is not visible or palpable.
That should be the first point. That should be the first point. You are mentioning these are the last point. Why?
Okay, sir.
Okay,
And on percussion, there will be dull note.
Yeah. So always begin on inspection. I asked the patient to deglute. I could not see the lower border. On palpation, I reconfirmed that the lower end of the thyroid swelling could not be reached. Then on doing Pemberton's test, I could find, now remember 3 areas you are going to inspect while you are doing a Pemberton's test. Number 1, the face for puffiness. Number 2, the neck for fullness. And number 3, you must expose the presternal area where the collateral veins appear. So the signs are obvious in the face, in the neck, and the presternal area. Okay. Subsequent to that, you can tell that the percussion thing, though there is a Chintamani and non-Chintamani group, but as a general policy, we agree that you have to percuss over this area. Okay. And then, of course, your auscultation holds true. Then continue with the CVS. If anything else, sir can describe, or else we go to the next.
Sir, should I proceed to systemic?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Systemic examination of respiratory, CVS, GI, and CNS all are within normal limits. So no abnormality detected.
What is your diagnosis?
Sir, 55-year-old female, clinical euthyroid, presenting with enlarged thyroid lobe and isthmus of thyroid gland, probably malignant in nature.
So what are the points in favor of the fact that this could be a malignant thyroid nodule?
You should include the lymph node also in the diagnosis. With lymph node you have mentioned. You should mention the lymph node also. Okay, with enlargement of significant enlargement of level 3 nodes on the right side. Okay, that also a point in favor of a diagnosis.
Okay, sir. For malignancy, I would say it is a short history. The whole history is of 6 months, and on inspectory findings, I cannot comment on whether it is malignant or
Don't
benign.
say this. Don't say this line.
Okay.
Don't say. You are being asked. Why do you say this malignant thyroid? So take points which are in favor. Don't say I don't find any point in for inspection. So that line is not required.
Okay, sir. On palpation, I have found 2 cervical lymph nodes, and the swelling is hard in consistency and irregular margins and nodular surface.
But
Sir, these are the points in favor of malignancy.
Now, Somen, I always felt, again, it's a closed group. Exam is more like selling Coca-Cola. Okay, you need to sell your product, your diagnosis to the examiner. That's what is an exam. Now, when you start writing in history, if you are suspecting a thyroid, a malignant, don't use terms like insidious in onset, slowly progressive. The story has to be set in a defined way, that the patient has noticed a swelling in the neck in 6 months back, and in the last 3 months it has been rapidly growing with appearance of another swelling in the neck. So that would make the immediately, so the adjectives that you use to impress the examiner is equally important rather than the knowledge you have. So you have to create a bias amongst the examiner that this can be a thyroid swelling and nothing but a thyroid swelling. So if I were in your place, I would have said the 55 years male or female who had presented with a swelling in the front of the neck, which started only 6 months back. So mark my word, which started only 6 months back and which has been rapidly growing in the last 3 months, suggests that this could be a thyroid swelling. On examination, I found a swelling, which is a thyroid swelling, of which a particular area is extremely hard. And on clinical examination, I found a metastatic node in the neck. So based on these findings, I thought this could be a carcinoma thyroid. So you should be able to create the bias in front of the examiner. Clear?
Okay, sir.
So if sir has any question, or else we move to the investigation.
fine. Any other differential diagnosis you like to put forward apart from malignant thyroid swelling with known metastasis?
Sir, it may be any benign thyroid swelling, like goiter, sir, multinodular goiter, sir, or thyroid cyst, thyroid adenoma.
No. Try to also explain the associated lymph nodes also. You find a significant node. So on the background of significant node, you cannot say this is a colloid nodule. This is unlikely.
Sir, lymph node, sir, indicates towards carcinoma only, sir.
Okay.
And if there is any other infection in the oral cavity, or
apart from carcinoma, in the carcinoma, any other lesion thyroid which can have a thyroid swelling, and you find also associated lymph node getting enlarged, that is also a described entity in thyroid. Can it be lymphoma? Can
yes,
lymphoma occur in thyroid?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So keep stick to the clinical finding and give a DD. You just cannot say thyroid cyst. Once you have a hard swelling you're describing, how can you put a DD of thyroid cyst? So your DD is not a wild DD. Your DD will take into account what you have found on examination also. Okay, so stick to this few DD only. Okay, then how to proceed?
Okay, now
This is
how will you investigate this lady?
Sir, I will first do some blood test. I will do some test to confirm the diagnosis. First of all, I will do some blood test like thyroid profile, TSH, and if TSH is abnormal, I will, as the patient is asymptomatic. So here I won't do T3 and T4, but if TSH comes to be abnormal, I will check every T4 and T3 level. And coming to imaging, I will do USG of neck to see the lymph nodes and thyroid gland, and based on the findings of USG, I will proceed further.
Okay, what are the ultrasonography findings to suggest that this could be a carcinoma thyroid?
Sir, on the basis of ultrasonography finding, there is a thyroid classification. So I will score the.
you mentioned the points which are described as suggestive of malignancy. It's not confirmed, but there are 5 points. There are 5 points
Yes,
in
sir.
thyroid group which suggest suspicion of malignancy, and based on
Yes,
the number of criteria being present, you take it to T4A, T4B, T4C, and T5. Okay, so tell us the points.
Yes, sir, first of all, the echogenicity, the composition,
What is
the
the
shape of the nodule.
No, you first tell us what type of echogenicity will raise a suspicion of this being a thyroid cancer.
Sir, hypoechoic goes in favor of malignancy.
Very good. So hypoechogenicity. Next,
Sir, composition, sir.
composition. What
Composition, solid. It may be solid or cystic. Solid swelling goes in favor of malignancy. And then comes, sir, margins. Margins will be irregular. And shape. The nodule shape, it is taller than width, then it goes in favor of malignancy. And presence of echogenic foci, it is in support of malignancy.
Calcification, not that is described as calcification.
Calcification.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, apart from this, if you add a Doppler to this, can Doppler help you giving a higher diagnostic yield of thyroid cancer? Somen?
How Doppler can help?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, Doppler of the carotid artery.
Not carotid, thyroid.
If there is
not carotid, thyroid itself, thyroid.
Thyroid.
You say thyroid cyst, and you say the thyroid malignant nodule. Do you find any difference in Doppler application in these two?
So
what about vascularity?
increased vascularity in malignant thyroid nodule, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So once you add a Doppler, now you look at a nodule, suppose in ultrasound, you find that the nodule is either a hypoechoic nodule or a complex cystic nodule or a complete cyst. So that is what you are going to see. Now suddenly add the color code to it. So once you add the color code to it, and apparently a swelling which was hypoechoic, you find within it there are a number of intralesional vascular dots. That is suggestive of malignancy. Whereas it's a colloid nodule, there will not be any intralesional vascularity. So it is extremely important to assess whether there is intralesional vascularity. If there are intralesional vascularity, that is malignancy. The extreme end of intralesional vascularity is found in Graves' disease. We call it a thyroid inferno. That means it looks like as if the whole thyroid is burning. So the extreme end is Graves' disease. The other end is a colloid cyst or a simple cyst of thyroid. in between vascularity increase is suggestive of a carcinoma. Clear? This is point number 1. Number 2, if you add the peak systolic flow that is happening within a thyroid. Now there are 2 conditions in which the peak systolic blood flow within the thyroid increases. Number 1 is Graves' disease or thyrotoxicosis, and number 2 is in malignancy. Clear? Of which in Graves' disease the peak systolic blood flow is massive, whereas there is intermediate increase in blood flow in malignancy. So you have to tell about the intralesional vascularity and number 2 peak systolic blood flow. Clear? So looking at the node, can you tell whether it's a metastatic node or it's a benign node? Node.
Yes, sir. If it is benign node, the margins will be regular.
Before margin, what are the criteria to say this is applicable in all places, breast, any other place? What are the criteria to say that this lymph node is clinically significant? What are the criteria?
Sir, one is size of the lymph node.
Yes. What is the size? What size is significant?
In neck, sir, more than 1 centimeter is significant.
More than
And,
7 millimeter. More than 7 millimeter.
In the groin is 1 centimeter. In the groin is 1 centimeter, but in the neck 7 millimeter and more are significant nodes. Okay,
In
one is
ultrasound,
size.
7 millimeter. Okay.
And consistency
Yes.
and fixity.
Yes. So these are the important things. If you say clinically significant node, your suspicion is high, and that has to be confirmed by imaging. So can you tell us the imaging finding, ultrasound finding to say yes, this might be a metastatic node? Important finding in ultrasonography.
Sir, yes, sir. On ultrasound, sir, the node will show irregular margins and increased vascularity.
And there are a lot of other findings. The shape of the node changes. What is the normal shape of a node?
So man,
Normal. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
where are you? Oh, you are there. Okay. Tell us what is the normal shape of a node? Okay. The
Sir,
normal
it is
shape of a node is a bean shaped. Okay.
kidney shaped.
Kidney shaped.
Bean shaped.
So in a metastatic node, it becomes ovoid or circular in shape. Clear?
Globular.
Number 2, in a malignant node, the subcortical space will be thickened because of deposit in the subcortical space. Number 3, the hilum will be effaced. That means the hilar fat will be replaced. And the transverse diameter in radiology will be more than 7 millimeter, and the node is likely to be taller than wider. If you find these features, then you suspect it to be a metastatic node. Clear? Okay, so man, now after this, what is the next investigation will you do?
Can you insunate the
sir.
IGV, Showman? Is there any importance of insunating the internal jugular vein in a suspicious of malignancy? Internal jugular vein?
Yes, sir. In malignant thyroid swelling, IJV may be infiltrated.
What you can see? What can happen?
Sir,
There are some thyroid malignancy which can permeate along the lumen of internal jugular vein, and sometimes this vein may be occluded. So ultrasonography can show you the jugular vein outline and the flow also,
yes, sir.
and you should infer whether there is any permeation of tumor along the jugular vein lumen. Okay, yes. Next.
Then we can proceed for FNAC. The FNAC decision for FNAC depends upon the size of the thyroid nodule.
This is a patient. This is a patient. Don't go to theoretical research. This is a patient in front of you, already described.
Okay, sir. I will do after USG. I will see if it is suspicion level is moderate, high, or mild suspicion, and based on the size of the swelling in this patient, I will go for FNAC and
Guided
classify
or
the
guided or unguided?
US guided FNAC.
Okay, so
And
when you tell the suspicion, you can tell about mild, moderate, or severe suspicion. You can also tell I will be guided by the TIRAD score. If the TIRAD is 3, 4, 5, that is a good enough indication, because the TIRAD also gives recommendation whether FNA has to be done or not.
Yeah.
So if you want to go by that standard, you tell that it is dependent on the TIRAD score.
TIRAD 3, 4, 5, I will go for FNAC, sir.
Yes.
FNAC, and it has to be ultrasound guided FNAC. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And it is also categorized as a non-aspiration cytology. If you aspirate too much, it will be hemorrhagic. It's a soft aspiration that is usually done for a thyroid swelling. Clear? So it's a confirmed case of thyroid carcinoma, a differentiated papillary thyroid carcinoma. What is your treatment plan?
Sir, for thyroid, papillary thyroid carcinoma, the treatment of choice is total thyroidectomy. I will go for surgery. The surgery is total thyroidectomy with central and lateral lymph node dissection.
In this particular patient, or that is the standard?
No, sir. If as there is palpable lymph node in my patients, that is why I will go for neck node dissection in this patient. And
what would
otherwise,
be the extent of lymph node dissection in such patient? What are the levels you are going to dissect?
sir, I will dissect central compartment and lateral compartment in this patient.
Talk of levels. Which
Level.
level? What about
Central-
level 1? 5?
Central compartment means level 6.
Yes.
It is bounded by above hyoid.
It's not required.
Okay, and for lateral compartment means level 2B, 4, 5, 2B, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
So 2B. We leave 2A. Why? Already if the level 2 is involved. It's not segregated like that. It's level 2, 3, 4, and 5. Why do you spare level 1? Why do you spare level 1 in thyroid malignancy? Yes, it's by anatomy only.
Sir, it is situated. It is sub.
Usually thyroid lymphatics does not drain into the
Drain.
level
Level
1. That is the
one.
reason. And most of it is not involved. So it happens you can skip level 1 node. That is the explanation. Normal thyroid lymphatics flows to the central and lateral nodes.
Lateral compartment.
Okay. So you have done the neck dissection and everything is been done. Now what would be your next plan? After
Sir,
surgery.
Just tell us the discharge advice. Patient is being discharged on 3rd or 4th post-op day. What is your discharge advice in the sheet?
Okay, sir. I will check the calcium, serum calcium level regularly at regular interval.
Patient is
And,
going home. Patient is going home 4th day. Whatever done, you have done the check of calcium level during stay. And if you have found it's normal, she did not keep on repeating this test. What is your advice in the discharge sleep? Normal diet. What next?
Okay, pain medications and
Yes.
antibiotics and
How long antibiotic you
advice
will
for wound dressing.
What do you consider this thyroid surgery as? Clean, contaminated,
clean,
contaminated?
Clean surgery.
Clean surgery. So antibiotic is not very essential. In our practice, we give 4 or 5 days antibiotic, but on discharge, patient may not be requiring antibiotics. Analgesic is yes, some patient has some pain. What about L-thyroxine?
L-thyroxine should be started after the
Are you
operation.
sure?
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Then when will you stop it? What is the role of L-thyroxine in after surgery?
To suppress the TSH level, sir.
No, that is the point we are asking. You should be knowing that the management of this patient. That's why I'm asking what discharge you write. Because here the patient you have done a total thyroidectomy and no dissection. So in the post-op period, you need to confirm whether you have done adequate surgery. Number one. Number two, we have not done any metastatic workup. So these thyroid patients, metastatic workup cannot be done in patient normal thyroid. So don't get confused that patient needs suppression from the immediate post-op period. Patient should not be started L-thyroxine. Patient goes home, and then what do you advise? When she should come back and she should be followed up in the immediate post-op period?
Sir, patient should be followed up after 2 weeks, sir.
2 weeks? Why 2 weeks? Apart from the stitch removal, etc., what is the role of post-operative TSH? Let us put it straight way. The patient is not on L-troxine. What is the role of TSH, assessing TSH?
Sir, if there is near total thyroidectomy, the whole of the
you have done
thyroid.
total. Don't confuse.
Okay.
You have done total thyroidectomy. Why do you jump to near total? You have done total thyroidectomy. You are not conversing this. What are you going to asking? The point is, once a patient has got a surgery done, this patient needs a whole body
Thyroid
scanning,
scan.
whole body
For
scanning.
For that, sir,
In the
I
post-op
will
period,
need to
yes,
keep the patient in low thyroid state, and
Yes.
TSH should be stimulated. So
Yes.
for that purpose, I will not give L-thyroxine, so
Yes,
that
and-
the thyroid, the rest of the gland may take up the contrast in presence of high TSH.
it's not contrast. It's not contrast.
Okay.
What TSH level
Radioactive.
you are happy? At what
Yes, sir.
TSH level you can proceed? Yes, now we'll do the thyroid scan, whole body scan. TSH level should be
Sir, more than
50.
3.5.
3.5, that is not
no. More than 50 milli-international per liter. That is the optimal TSH level one should achieve before you go for whole body scanning. How do you do whole body scanning, Soman? What is the technique? Where is this test done? In which department of the hospital? Which department of the hospital carries out this test? No. This is done in the nuclear medicine department, not radiotherapy. It is done in the nuclear medicine department of the hospital. All hospital does not have the facility. You need to have a lot of radiation safety. And how it is done?
Sir, it can be injected IV,
Inject iodine
or
or
it
inject
can be
something else?
given via oral route, sir.
You're not even. There is not a choice. It's not even. If you are using thyroid scanning, it is oral. Okay, you give
And
5 millicurie. If you are doing whole body technetium scanning, that is also accepted mode of scanning. Technetium is given parenterally. Okay, you have given the patient a dose of thyroid iodine. And what is done? What is exactly thyroid scanning?
sir, to detect any thyroid producing
How?
cell in the
How is this test done? What is being done actually exactly? Have you seen a picture of whole body scanning?
Yes, sir.
What is that? How it
Sir, by a
appears?
handheld gamma camera, sir.
Yes. So patients stand in front of a gamma camera and they take a front view picture and take a rear view picture.
Yes, sir.
And how do you decide, yes, this area is having a residual thyroid tissue or patient has got a metastasis? What is seen in these plates?
Sir, in the picture, I will see the increased activity of the radioactive iodine, where the radioactive iodine has taken up in the places.
Sir, you can continue. I can, with your permission, can I leave, sir?
Yes. We are almost finishing. Okay, I'll just discuss the follow-up. Yes, please.
Sir, I am leaving. I have to run to the hospital.
Yes, yes, yes. I know. Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. But Somen, you were really good. But you have to read a bit on this. Sir will take you through. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Showman, you said you have seen the picture. How does this picture appears? What is shown in the pictures? These appear as stippled dots. You find in the plate there are stippled dots.
Dots.
So you find the dots, whether the dots are more in a particular area. So by that way, you can decide about the neck uptake and you can decide about any distant metastatic uptake. So now there are two scenarios. One scenario is in whole body scanning, there is no uptake in the neck. There is no uptake in the remaining part of the body. That is one patient. Maybe the patient is fortunate enough, he has got a good surgery, he is the patient. Or unfortunately, this patient comes with a report saying that he has got some amount of residual tissue in the neck because there is uptake in the neck. And he has got some uptake in the lungs. How do you treat patient group 1 and 2? Patient has no uptake. What is his management?
If the patient has no uptake,
Yes.
so I will start on L-thyroxine therapy.
What is the specificity about this L-thyroxine therapy? For any patient of hypothyroid, give L-thyroxine. But when it comes to the point of a patient having carcinoma thyroid, what this L-thyroxine therapy is important to be planned? What is that described as?
Sir, L-thyroxine therapy to suppress the TSH.
Yes,
sir.
it is a suppressive dose of L-thyroxine where TSH should be kept towards the low
Below.
normal side.
Yes, sir.
If you see the TSH level, it has got a range from
0.5
low to
to-
higher range.
Yes, sir.
So if the patient is a patient having a idiopathic hypothyroidism, we give the L-thyroxine and keep the value between the
Normal range.
low and the high normal range. But in malignancy, you have to keep in mind that this TSH level has to be kept towards the low normal side. You are not happy if the TSH shows is 4.5. I am happy if the TSH is around 0.5. So you give the supranormal. The point is you have to give the patient supranormal dose of thyroxine. That is one. Okay, and follow this patient up. What is the frequency of follow-up? What is the frequency of follow-up?
Sir, every for first 2 years, every 3 months,
Yes.
and for the next 3 years, every 6 months, and after that yearly, lifelong.
Okay. When you follow this patient up, how do you follow this patient up? What is the protocol for following a patient of CA thyroid in the follow-up?
Sir, apart from history and clinical examination,
Yes.
I
History and clinic
will
is very important. History and
Yes,
clinic
sir.
is very important because
Yes, sir.
this patient can come with local recurrence and this patient come with distant metastasis.
Yes, sir.
So history and clinical examination is very important to plan your next subject because you cannot keep on doing all the information all the time. So first you'll be a good clinical examination, examine the neck, ask for any systemic symptoms and any systemic findings. And once you have done this, what is the basic investigation you order for each follow-up?
Sir, serum TSH level, sir,
Yes.
and
So serum TSH level will give an idea whether you are giving the patient adequate dose of
readjust
L-thyroxine.
to readjust the dose of
Yes.
L-thyroxine,
And what else you should do in follow-up?
and serum calcium, sir.
The serum calcium you have done good surgery, you have not removed the parathyroid. So serum calcium is not mandatory in every follow-up. What is more important? Which will suggest even if the disease is not palpable, even if the disease is not symptomatic, patient is there is a good marker. In thyroid malignancy, there is a marker. Yes.
Thyroglobulin, sir.
Yes. And you should keep in mind when you work up the patient in the pre-op phase, a baseline thyroglobulin is a standard of care. So while you take the patient for surgery, you should do a baseline thyroglobulin assay.
Yes, sir.
So you know the baseline assay. And then do the surgery, this thyroglobulin should come down. So you should do a thyroglobulin assay,
Yes, sir.
and the things will be guided by thyroglobulin assay. One situation is you find something wrong in examination. This patient needs next line of investigation. If thyroglobulin is showing an increase, there is a possibility of relapse, either local or in the distant site. So now you have a situation that there is suspicion of relapse of the disease at the end of 1 year. What you should do now? There is suspicion of a relapse of the disease because thyroglobulin is showing a steady rise in 2 to 3 visits. What you should do now? What is
Sir,
the management for such situation?
sir, if the thyroglobulin is raised, so I will like to see the source of where the residual thyroid swelling is
How?
present.
How? Because you have done a baseline whole body scanning which is not showing any uptake. Now you have a patient who has got thyroglobulin showing increase, and now you have suspicion this patient might have a local recurrence or this patient might have some distance spread. What should be the investigation now? Someone has suggested a PET CT.
Yes, sir.
You like to a PET CT, or you can do something else also. So these are time you should go for a whole body scanning again. So now you have to stop L-thyroxine. You stop L-thyroxine, wait for TSH to go up, which may take 2 to 3 weeks time, or maybe in 4 weeks, and do a whole body scanning. Okay. So to get a whole body scanning, you need to stop TSH for about a month. And some patients are bothered with symptoms of hypothyroidism. What are the other strategy which can follow to get an early whole body scanning done without stopping this drug for about 4 weeks? Any other strategy to get an early whole body scanning? What you can do? Any other?
Stimulation of TSH.
How? How? Next strategy is, instead of T4, now in the market you have T3 available. Okay. Triiodothyronine preparation is available in the market, but it's very costly. So if you stop the T3 for 1 week, the TSH goes up because T3 has got a very short half-life. So you can change over to T3, continue, and then stop T3 for a week, and then do the whole body scanning. Another strategy is, you stop L-thyroxine, give the patient rTSH, that is also available in the market as injection. You can give the patient recombinant TSH injection for 3 days. That shoots the TSH up and do the scanning in 3 days time. Now you have a situation that I told you that patient has got a lesion in the lung, which is taking this radioiodine. So, and there is suspicion of lung metastasis. What should be the management strategy for such situation?
Sir, I can do a USG guided ablation or radio frequency USG guided ablation with ethanol or
In lung,
radio.
now you do ethanol injection. This is in the liver, not in the lung.
Okay, sir. Lung.
You have confirmed
Radio
that
frequency.
this is a metastasis from the thyroid malignancy in the lung.
Sir, a radio frequency ablation can be done.
Yes, the next standard of treatment is a radioiodine ablation of this metastatic disease. So you give the patient mega dose. It can be varying between 50 to 100 millicurie of radioactive iodine. And that is being done in the nuclear medicine department. Patient should be isolated when you give the patient this mega dose of radioiodine, because this radioiodine will be passed in urine. And this patient should be isolated. So that is the management for a metastatic disease. Here, you have a patient where you have done a thyroid, and in the post-op scan, you find there is a significant amount of uptake in the neck. What should be the strategy for management in this situation? There is significant uptake of radioactivity in the neck. What should be the strategy for management in this situation?
Sir, it can be again managed with, sir, radioactive iodine.
That depends. That's what I'm saying. If you say significant uptake, you have to do a repeat imaging of the neck. If you find there is macroscopic, a gross residual thyroid tissue, you should do re-exploration.
Re-exploration, sir.
Okay, but if the significant tissue is not there, there is uptake, then you can ablate this with mega dose of radioactive. Okay, I think we should stop at 40. Okay, thank you, Shomen.
Okay, sir.
Uh,
Thank you, sir.
we have not discussed about the genetic basis of thyroid malignancy. That is a area coming up. In suspicious situations, you can analyze the FNA sample
Yes, sir.
for
For
gene.
Bethesda 3 and 4, sir, there are some
Yeah.
genetic tests.
So you can
Like
these
Thyrosec
genetic
and-
tests will suggest this. Read about the genetic studies. Dr. Mondal was asking some question. Dr. Mondal is online. Taposh, you can unmute. Dr. Mondal. Dr. Taposh Mondal.
Hello. Hi,
Dr. Yeah. You are asking some question, please.
না স্যার থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার পাস হয়ে গেছে বুঝতে
Okay,
হয়ে
okay, okay. Any other
আমার
chat?
কথা ভালো হয়েছে স্যার ভালো করছে
Okay. The chat box. Okay, yes. Okay, thank you so much. We'll have one more class before puja, and then we'll enjoy the puja and then come back after puja. Okay, one more class, huh? Thursday. Yes, Thursday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.